Family, Hotep.
Hotep.
It is tradition in the African custom to pour libations before all special occasions. Certainly being graced by Dr. Chandler is one of those occasions. The best case scenario is that we would rise and form a circle, but due to limited space, I am going to ask you to rise, if you will, and I want you to be connected to the person next to you. Please understand that there's a protocol. There is a protocol for your connection. That is to say that your right hand is giving. That's down. And your left hand is receiving. And that's up. Your right hand is giving. Your left hand is receiving. I had a demonstration that I used to do at the Ancient African History class, and I forgot my little energy ball. But this is not a casual union. This is not a casual stance for us. We emit energy to each other. And when we're connected properly, we convey that energy to one another. So it's important that we join appropriately and properly. Dr. Chandler, you can grab somebody's hand over there. What I'll do is I'll make the libation statement. You'll repeat that statement if you would, and then followed by Ashe, which is to say that it's all right. It's good. It's a good thing. Let the Creator and the spirits come and be with us and give us a vision for the future. So I'll make the libation statement, then you'll repeat that statement after me if you would. So we go. For the motherland, El Kibalon.
For the motherland, El Kibalon.
Cradle of civilization.
Cradle of civilization.
Ashe.
Ashe. For the ancestors.
For the ancestors.
From whom we can learn much.
From whom we can learn much.
In your own families, there are people that have gone on before us that have now been deceased. If you would call on their names now to give them life in our gathering.
George Bowe. Wilmer Barnes. Marcus Mazai Garvey.
Ida B. Wells.
Harriet Tubman.
Mm-hmm. Drusilla Dungy Houston.
Zora Hurston.
John Coltrane.
William Zinga.
Steve Coakley. Malcolm X.
Nina Simone.
Mm.
Harriet Harper.
Mm.
Hubert Henry Harrison.
Mm.
Is there another?
Yes. Carlos Cooks.
Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mm. Mm.
Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Carmichael.
Yep, yep. Geronimo Pratt.
We ask that the spirits of those ancestors come and be with us and give us a vision for the future. Ashe.
Ashe.
For the elders from whom we can learn much.
For the
For the elders from whom we can learn much.
Ashe.
Ashe.
For our youth who represent the promise for tomorrow.
For our youth who represent the promise for tomorrow.
Ashe.
Ashe.
For our people, the original people.
For our people, the original people.
Ashe.
Ashe.
For our struggle and on behalf of all of those who have struggled on our behalf. For our struggle
For our
For our
struggle.
struggle and all those who have struggled in our behalf.
Ashe.
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 For Yamoja, the principle of unity which should guide us in all that we do.
For
Moja, the principle of unity which should guide us in all that we do.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And for the Creator who provides all things, both great and small.
For
For the Creator who provides all things, great
great
and
and
small.
small. Ashe.
This brings the end to libations. Asante Sana. Family, we must ask permission for our session to begin. I don't want to be presumptuous, so I'm just going to randomly pick who I think may be elder enough. How about Brother Massa? Brother Massa, we ask permission that we begin our session. Can we have your permission? Asante Sana.
We have your permission? Thank you, brother.
It's been requested and granted. The class will now begin.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of Brother Chandler. As one of the youngest people here in the room, I think it's very important that brothers like myself and brothers like Justin, brothers like Charles, soak up as much of this information as we can so that we share it with the next generation to come. Okay? I think it's very important that we all understand the importance of this great brother here and the work that he's done throughout his life. The strength that it takes to be who he is, to travel the world without fear, and to do what he does is magnificent. I've been studying the brother, as I mentioned to him earlier, for about 7, 8 years now, and all of the information he shares with the world is very powerful, very, very powerful. I prepared a brief introduction, some of the things he's already mentioned, so that everybody can get an up-to-date understanding of what the brother has been doing. Brother Chandler is an anthrophotojournalist who specializes in ancient African and Asian civilizations, philosophy, and culture. From 1985 to 1995, Brother Chandler was a regular contributor and co-author in 8 publications of the Journal of African and Asian Civilizations, a series of books produced annually and edited by our great brother, Professor Ivan Van Sertima. Brother Wayne is a motivational speaker and workshop facilitator who has lectured throughout Europe, East Africa, the Caribbean, Canada, and United States. Brother Wayne is also certified in the powerful healing techniques of beings, which is called the bioelectric energy management systems, pregnant healing, and medical qigong under the tutelages of Master Stephen Coe and Sybil Baker. He is also certified in spiritual sexual alchemy, core energetics, and brainwave therapy, as instructed by Mankai Chi and Mrs. Minko DeVos. Hope I said those names correctly. Okay.
Close enough.
Close enough. Brother Chandler was also a martial artist with over 25 years experience. He is trained in the system of long fist and also has an extensive training in the African-based martial arts of capoeira. Now, in closing, brothers and sisters, let's please listen up and let's learn as much as we can from this great brother, because brothers like him are a dying breed. They're a dying breed. We have to continue to give this information to our people on a consistent basis. We have to teach the youth. We talk all the time about these young brothers and how crazy they are in the street. But a lot of people don't take the time out of their busy day to pull a brother to the side and try to help him. All right? We complain a lot, but we're not doing. Simple as that. A lot of people think they know it and they got knowledge, but they sit on the couch and they're not sharing it with other people. We got to stop that. So let's listen up to Brother Wayne. Thank you, brother, for everything. Thank you for coming.
I'd like to begin with just an ancient quote. There's, in our histories, when we look at like the martial arts and just the cultural contributions that blacks have made to the ancient samurai tradition in Japan, there was a saying that arose out of that particular era, and it is said that that which is called the spirit of an age is something to which one cannot return. That this spirit dissipates is due to the world's coming to an end. Though one would like to change today's world back to the spirit of 5,000 years ago or more, it cannot be done. Therefore, we must make the best out of every generation. What that says is that every time we move from one cycle into another, those who have information, especially information such as the information that you all carry culturally, there's a responsibility to pull various elements of that information into the here and now. The challenge is how to blend those different elements so that they can be expressed and utilized in a practical manner. To do this, you have to think and move ancestrally in a holistic manner, because that's how our ancestral traditions were based. They saw the interrelationship between all things, everything. They knew that everything was interrelated, everything was interconnected. So one piece was like a piece of a puzzle that fit into another piece. And when you put all of that together, it created this mosaic of a variety of different experiences, directions, and abilities, of which, we'll get into a little bit later. But it becomes important for me, I think one of the most important things that we can do as a people is to acquire this holistic approach to how we live our lives and what we see on a daily basis. Starting with India. India is probably, for me, one of the most powerful areas, of cultural influence, because of how it has reshaped and repatterned the world in which we live. And I say that because a lot of the traditions that we carry unconsciously, that we speak unconsciously on a daily basis, arise from this particular period in our historical legacy. So, to begin, I'd like to just talk about those individuals, populations that really went into India and laid the foundation of that civilization. So India is the subcontinent of Asia. The area that we're going to be focused on is going to be up in the northwest. But India itself is an amazing place. It's an amazing place, and like other areas like in Southeast Asia, there's a very powerful African or black presence there that laid the root of civilization and a cultural foundation that has basically gone unnoticed and unrecognized. So in India, you have probably close to like 50 to 100 million black people, or people that would consider themselves as being black. All up and through here, down in the south, in islands that set off into the Bay of Bengal, you have remnants of ancient populations of these black people. This is a group called the Adamanese. They're one of the oldest known black populations still left on the planet Earth today. They're classified anthropologically as a Stone Age culture. This particular group is called the Jawara. They've been around for a very, very, very long time. They occupy islands in the Bay of Bengal that are known as the Andaman Islands. Therefore, they became known as the Adamanese. Very few of them are left today, but we find this particular population, this particular community of people spread in pockets throughout various areas of Asia. In Melanesia, even in China, there are still remnants of these particular groups of black people. This was the first basic foundation of ancient Indian civilization. The pillars of which ancient Indian civilization was founded upon was introduced by these black people. So they create the first strata. The second strata comes from a group of people that are identified in India today as the Adivasi. Adivasi means former inhabitants. But these people, this particular group is called the Orissa. And they live up in the mountains, in the hills of the area of central India. And as you can see, they adorn themselves in a very African demeanor. The third strata are known as the Dravidians. Now that's a term that a lot of us are very familiar with. Where the Dravidians came from is very interesting because I get into conversations with some of my colleagues about their origins. And within the Dravidian family are several groups. One is the Telugu. Another one is called the Malayalam. Another is called the Kannadese. And the oldest of the Dravidian groups or families is known as the Tamil. Now when you get into the Tamilian histories in terms of their origins and just, their generational legacy, they say that they are not originally from India, that they come from a place called Kumari. which was a land, a continent that sank beneath the sea at a very remote period in history. So it conjures up, like, you know, the idea of the storylines of like ancient Atlantis or Lemuria. So many esoteric historians believe that the Tamil and many of the Dravidian families have a Lemurian lineage, and that was their original homeland. The thing that's very interesting with respect to Indian culture and civilization is that they go back millions and millions of years. This is how they trace their civilization. And they have individuals that they call Tirthankars. Tirthankars is a word, it means maker of the way. Each time we move into a different cycle and Earth is destroyed, civilization, culture as we know it, ceases to be. These Tirthankars are responsible for taking the language and the sciences of the previous cycle into the new cycle that's to be formed, that's to be utilized. So you have these individuals. This is another individual by the name of Sai Baba. Sai Baba just recently passed. I believe he passed back in March. Yeah, Sai Baba passed back in March. 84 years old. But he was said to be a true avatar. He was an individual that could materialize stuff. The times that I saw him, and he materializes this powder from the palm of his hand. Of course, people said it was some kind of a trick or whatever, you know, but he could materialize this powder from the center of his hand, and it was called vibhuti ash. And he would ask you to hold your hand out, and then he would take his hand and just do like this, and this ash, this powder, would literally fall from his hands into your hand. So I would, you know, and everybody did it, they would take whatever they got from him and they would put it in these little packets, you know. And I still have it. After all, I mean, years and years and years have gone by, and it has a very aromatic aroma, you know, a fragrance that is like you smell it, and you can take some. They say you can take some, just take a little bit, put it on the tip of your tongue or in the center of your forehead, and it sends you right into meditation. But he was a very powerful brother. They said that he was the reincarnation of another previous avatar by the name of Krishna. Now, many of us know the name Krishna because we know about the Hare Krishnas. The term Krishna literally translates into the black one. That's what it means. Krishna literally means the black one. So when you see all these pictures of Krishna as being colored blue, what that symbolizes is the fact that he was so black that he was blue. So the area that we want to deal with is this area up in here. This area is the base, the root of a civilization that was known as the Indus Valley Civilization, or the Indus Kush. This civilization was larger than Kemet or Egypt and Mesopotamia put together. They didn't build on these really elaborate, like very grandiose scales like the civilizations of Mesopotamia and especially that of Kemet. But what they did was so practically functional that no one else was duplicating what it was they were accomplishing with respect to city planning. So when we look at some of the old relics of some of the inhabitants, this is one that stands out. This is one of the more famous pieces that came from a place called Mohenjo-Daro. Mohenjo-Daro was one of the largest cities, probably about 80,000 people. The city itself was laid out in a design that many city planners and architects say is fashioned very similar to Manhattan Island. You all are, because I mean you're getting the head kind of cut off.
Let me see if I can.
Another lady can look at that and say, oh, that's a familiar pose. What you say? I know you ain't talking to me.
It looks like that, doesn't it? All of these are like bangles up the arm.
Wow.
So I mean, she was ornate. She was like,
Yeah.
this is also a piece from that time period. And what I want you to look at is the texture of the hair. Because a lot of, even a lot of the black Indians today, they have that really straight hair. But in antiquity, around this particular time, they had the so-called artistically rendered peppercorn hair. And as you can see by the features, these are definitely black people that occupied these cities. This sister here, you can just tell by all, and they do the same thing that you find in Kemet. If you look at the nose here, the nose has been completely hacked off. And the same thing, the faces back here have been disfigured. This is Queen Maya. This is the Buddha's mother. This is the little baby Buddha down here. And we'll get more into his story a little bit later. But the city itself, this is an artist's rendition of what Mohenjo-Daro, the largest of the cities in the Indus Valley, looked like. They had a wall that went around the entire city. As you can see, like all the streets were about 30 feet in width. They ran north to south and east to west. The cities were put together ingeniously, and even with respect to municipal controls, because they have found evidence of like street lamps along the cities that kept the streets lit at night. The cities were like on two levels, so you had one level where you had a lot of the residents, and then the upper level, or the upper tier, you had all of your various buildings. So when you ascend these steps here, and I didn't bring all of the shots that I have, but when you ascend these particular steps, this takes you up to the level where you have more of what we would consider today governmental offices and various institutions. The institutions that kind of kept order in the city. Now, one of the things that the Indus Valley was known for, and they were doing this thousands of years before anybody else, was that they had a very elaborate system of drains. So when you would go into one of their homes, in their homes, they had toilets that had water that flushed. They had kitchens that had garbage disposal units. All of these fed out into these small drains like this that ran between the different sections of the home, and from there fed out into a larger drain such as this, which ran between the different houses. They had water that could be replenished daily. This is how they lived. I mean, when you talk about there's nothing new under the sun, you know, this is what we're looking at right now. With the demise and the destruction of the Indus Valley civilization, it would be 1,000 years before these type of developments would be seen again on the earth. This is the main drain that takes all of the waste matter out of the cities and moves it into the river, into the Indus River, where it's dumped into the sea. Now, along this particular drainage unit, they have what are called sumps. And sumps are these mechanisms that literally collect larger portions of debris, and they move this debris off to the side so that the sewage system never gets obstructed by these larger pieces of debris. And there's always free passage of fluid. This particular piece is pretty amazing because for me, growing up, you know, like in DC, we had these swimming pools that were built pretty much on this particular format, principle. Now, I want you to notice all of these little protuberances up here that move along the whole perimeter of the pool. This pool in itself was about 8 feet deep. This is an aerial view of the pool. All of these areas in here were shower units where the inhabitants would shower before and after going into the pool. You can see the drainage systems here that fed into the different shower units to make sure that, you know, there was always a fresh supply of water. Now, the deep thing is, if you look at this pipe here, this pipe here feeds into the main area of the pool where they were able to change the water on a regular basis so that the water never ever got stagnant. This particular pipe here is about 6 feet in height and 5 and about 1/4 feet in width. So all the water was moved in and out through this particular pipe. I mean, it was ingenious the way they put this together. Now they call this the Great Bath, but it's designed just like a lot of the swimming pools that we, I used when I was a kid. So this is another shot. The pool, as I said, was 8 feet deep. All of the bricks. Now we're looking at something that is easily 7,000 years old. Now, these bricks were still held together by the mortar that they used. They used a combination of what's called gypsum and bitumen. And they used that to make the bricks watertight so that no water would leak out of the pool. Other things that they were very ingenious about was this is the oldest chess set. The difference is this. They used what we would call chess today, they used as a system of divination. After the conquest, this system became used, or this game became used to describe or reflect the art of war. How many of you all can identify what's in the corner over there? Exactly. They're dice. These are the oldest dice that have ever been found on the planet Earth. And again, they were used as a system of divination as opposed to objects rolled in a back alley. What we know of this particular civilization is that they created a foundation of philosophy and science that, in terms of its practicality, was unrivaled. Yoga came out of this culture. The 8 limbs, not just how yoga is taught today or expressed and practiced today, but the 8 limbs, the 8 different aspects that feed into the yoga tradition, along with breath control, along with meditation, along with what they call the yamas and niyamas, how to live your life through a construct of morality. You know, how to go about dealing and how you greet your brothers and your sisters on a daily basis, how you interact with them. So a lot of excavations began to turn up these types of seals. And these types of seals basically told us that within the Indus Valley civilization, that yoga was very dominant. So these sisters and brothers had a practice that reflected a spiritual core. So spirituality was their very essence. It was their core experience. And everything that they did revolved around and out of that. We know for a fact that they were a non-violent civilization. They have never ever found any weapons or anything that could be described as a weapon out of the Indus Valley civilization. So this whole spiritual construct was very well integrated in every way, shape, form, and fashion in the culture, in the civilization, in the individuals that created the culture and the civilization. A lot of the people that had direct inroads into like moving this information out of this type of cultural construct into various parts of India would later become known as sadhus. Now the sadhus were the holy men of India. They were these brothers who just moved around various parts of the country and taking with them different spiritual disciplines. More than likely at an earlier time, just prior to the conquest, sadhus, I'm sure, were an expression or a reflection of both genders. This piece here is about 2,500 years old. And if you notice the hair, it seems to be locked because that was one of the traditions of the sadhu. They believed in wearing dreads, or what they call jata. The jata was adorned, and the longer it was, they never ever cut their hair from the time they were born. So some of their dreads, some of their locks, some of their jata became incredibly long. This is a modern day sadhu. This is another one. And this brother here, one of the things that the sadhu, which is very interesting because in the Rasta tradition, smoking herb, marijuana,
Kush, as they call it today.
you know, or what they refer to as ganja, is part of their tradition. It's also part of the tradition of the sadhu. So what he's getting ready to do is to fire up his chalice. You know, he's got like the matches in his hand down here. You know, his chalice is in his bag. He's got this little tiny pipe there. He's getting ready to, like, you know, just go for it. Now, this brother here, you know, I mean, he's like, you know, he's got to do some serious head wrapping with all of that. So the sadhu, as they were known in deep antiquity, were called Vaishyas, which means that they had the ability to see. They were seers. They were mystics. So they were able to know 1,000 years prior to any invasion exactly what was going to befall their civilization. This is how incredible they were. So they used cycles. They believed in the cyclic order of things. And they were able, these Vaishyas were able to go into these different cycles and basically decode the characteristics and the intricate happenings in these various cycles. So the first cycle they referred to as the Satya. They called them yugas, which means ages, great ages. So the first was the Satya Yuga. It was 1,726,000 years long. Pristine, pure spirituality. No darkness. Everybody was immortal. The second of these cycles was called the Treta. The Treta Yuga was 1,228,000 years. The third was called the Dwapara Yuga, which was 864,000 years. And the next of these great ages, or yugas, was called the Kali. The Kali Yuga, which was 432,000 years long, which is the age that we are in right now. So, borrow your book, right? So to give you an idea of the Kali in terms of how they look at the Kali and how the Kali is stated, in our most ancient traditions, it says, the barbarians will be masters of the banks of the Indus. There will be contemporary monarchs reigning over the earth, kings of churlish spirit, violent temper, and ever addicted to falsehood and wickedness. They will inflict death on women, children, and cows. They will seize upon the property of their subjects and be intent upon the wives of others. They will be of unlimited power, but their lives will be short, their desires insatiable. Now, this piece I'm reading to you now is at least 7,000 years old. It comes from this period where the Vaishyas were able to project prophecy on this new cycle that was about to begin on the planet, which is the cycle that we are currently in today. People of various countries intermingling with them will follow their example. And the barbarians being powerful in the patronage of their princes, while the pure tribes of the earth will be neglected. Spiritual wealth and piety will decrease until the world will be wholly depraved. Prosperity alone will confer rank. Material wealth will be the only source of devotion. Passion will be the sole bond of union between the sexes. Falsehood will be the only means of success in litigation, and women will be objects merely of sensual gratification. External type will be the only distinction of the several orders of life. A man, if rich, will be reputed pure. Dishonesty will be dependence. Menace and presumption will be substituted for learning. Liberality will be devotion. He who is the strongest will reign. The people unable to bear the heavy burden, the karabara, the load of taxes, will take refuge among the valleys. Thus, in the Kali age, will decay constantly proceed until the human race approaches its annihilation. So, with this, all of these different ages fall into a system that's known as the Manvantara. But you can find this exact same system of the Igbo in Africa. They don't use the Y when they relate or spell the word Yuga. They start with the U. They call them Yugas. The first is the Uga Ka. And the Uga Ka, like the Satya, is just pure spiritual sustenance and reflection. Immortality reigns. The second is called the Uga Chi. C-H-I, the Uga Chi. Now, in this particular cycle, you have the coming of duality. You have telepathy, you have psychic ability, but you also have now upon the planet death. The third of these cycles is called the Uga Anwu. The Uga Anwu is said to reflect the children of the sun who move and see reality with the one single eye. So the way I interpret that is they're dealing with pineal function. It says that there are destructive energies that come upon the earth in this particular cycle, but that these humans have the power to check, to keep in play all destructive influences. They can neutralize all of them. The fourth of these cycles is called the Uga Azi. And the Uga Azi is the cycle that reflects death, reflects evil, reflects darkness, just like the Kali, because the Kali Yuga is the cycle, literally it means the age of darkness. So these Vaishyas were able to like move in a very envisioned manner to see prophetically what was going to happen, what was going to take place in these various periods. So we're now in a period where we have to make some hard decisions because we're in a very powerful predicament. Our backs are up against the wall. We're in a downward spiral, and basically the way I see it and look at it, the only thing that's going to really help us to get out of this particular, spiral that we're in is divine intervention. So you have to stop and think about, when you look at our communities across the planet, this downward spiral, people come to me and say, well, if we do this and we do that, yeah, you're going to be able to do some things to take small communities of people and help to move and shift those small communities, those small pockets of people into a different place in their consciousness so that they can begin to affect shifts and changes, amongst the race. But in terms of saving the race, only divine intervention is going to be able to come in and do something like that, because we are in a real precarious situation. There's no question about it. People say, well, if we do this and that, we can turn it. No. With a spiral moving down, first thing you have to do is to slow the spherical descent. Then you have to stop the descent. After you stop that descent, you then have to turn it around and begin an upward movement. The amount of energy, focus, and collective conscious continuity that would take, ain't enough of us. So, through the Kali Yuga of where we are now, the thing about the Kali Yuga that our ancestors impart to us is that the Kali Yuga contains all of the other ages. So it contains the highest of the high, even though it's the lowest of the low. And that's divine. Because the Creator isn't going to keep us in this cultural incarceration, for more than what we know we can stand. So now we're getting ready to move into a period of shifting and changing. A period where things are going to open up. And there will be that process of divine intervention. What that's going to look like, I can't say. But right now, there are a lot of things that are taking place just in the cosmos around us that are impacting this planet in very significant, profound ways. Now, where you want to be is in the mix with respect to how you can acquire and receive this energy, because it's all about changing now. It's all about being repatterned. It's all about really going deep within your own individual core and just grabbing onto your personal power and utilizing that. So one of the great things that came out of the Indus Valley civilization was the science of yoga. This brother here, sitting in the lotus posture in meditation, he's gone too. Tells us about the science. This is the Eye of Heru. But the symbolism behind the Eye of Heru is all about this. It's all about consciousness. That's all it's about. It's about how do you activate the pineal center and the thalamus to bring a level of enlightenment, of transcendental consciousness to that particular individual. So here you have what was known as the initiatory process, or the initiation of the right and the left hemispheres. Because through the Eye of Heru, it basically was built on a system of initiation that fused both hemispheres together. So not only were you able to move in the three-dimensional realm, the world of tangibilities, but you were also initiated into how to move into the intangible, into the higher dimensional fields. This was done so by special practices that they use to activate and initiate the stimulation of this particular area of the brain. So this gets into who are you? What are you? Because that's a very, very, very powerful piece. What are you? So our ancestors, by design, basically said that we're fourth dimensional entities. This is how we're put together. This is why they had so much ability. This is why they had so much vision. This is why they had so much power. Because they were able to harness this and apply this in a practical way in their everyday reality. They understood the nature of themselves, and we don't. They were fourth dimensional entities. They understood the chakra elements in the body. They understood the different energies, the lines, the conduits that take life force and move it through the body. That's why they developed a whole system that we now refer to today as pranayama. Pranayama means the science of breath. By using specific breathing techniques, they could move energy into various areas and activate different processes in their being, which would give them different states or levels of awareness in their consciousness. This was their game. This was what they did. This is who they were. I mean, these sisters and brothers were off the chain because they understood. They had an understanding. They understood who and what they were. We don't. So their whole focus was all about integration, because they understood that all the different areas of the body work harmoniously together to support one another. They understood that within the gross physical body that this culture has made us think is the only body that we have, there are more subtle bodies which lie beneath it. So the chakra system is one of the more powerful systems that we walk around with. It is the most powerful system that we walk around with. The chakras in the human body, the roots connect to a system of glands called the endocrine glands or the ductless glands. And there is constant dialogue between the chakras and the energy that they pull in and then transfer into these glands that lie at the root of the chakra. Now, there's a sister who wrote a book, you all might want to take note. It's called Opening to Spirit. Her name is Caroline Shola Ariwa.
Spell the last name.
Arewa. Ariwa. It's called Contacting the Healing Power of the Chakras and Honoring African Spirituality. Another brother who delved deep into this, who's in mainstream academia, and he's a good friend, brother by the name of Bruce Bynum, wrote a book on the African psychology, talking about the chakras and the kundalini, and how pervasive that system is in all of our African cultural traditions. Now, this sister here, this is what she says about the chakras. She says the chakras dictate who and what we are, what we feel, and how we think and change. They are how we express ourselves and how we create. The chakra system is precisely the means by which we gain awareness. It is how we experience life, how we perceive reality, and how we relate to self, others, and the world. The system is life itself. It is the central core that links us to every living entity and connects us to the Creator. It is the wisdom of the past, present, and the future. And that past, present, and future is revealed via our chakras. Now, the problem is this: we never go inside. So our inner environment is a world that we have no connection to whatsoever. We don't even know where our organs are, let alone to identify with something like the chakras. So we're going to do a couple of tests. This is an energy field. Now we have several different fields. So she's going to be gracious enough to come here. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to scan. This is called scanning. I'm going to scan the fields of energy that are produced by her chakras. So depending on where that field extends, it tells me a lot about what's going on in her body. Now, this is the thing. We've been told there are 7 chakras in the human body, but there's not. We have 11 major chakras. So back in the day, there was a group, or a movement really, called the Theosophical Society. And the Theosophical Society had roots into India. And they were bringing out all this information for whatever reason, through a man by the name of C.W. Ledbetter, who wrote the definitive work on the chakras for the Western Hemisphere, decided to keep at bay, to keep hidden all of the other chakras, and only gave us 7. Only gave 7 chakras to the West. So, when you work with the chakras, there's a very specific design. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a couple. I'm going to clean them, balance them, then energize them. And I'm going to ask her to tell you what it is that she felt. Is that cool? Do I have your permission to do this? Okay. So the first thing I want to do is just clean the field of energy that's around her.
So is that holy water you spraying?
Of sorts. Mhm. No. So I'm going to work on her crown. You're hot? Okay. How do you feel now? Now I'm working on her solar plexus chakra.
Can we ask you questions while we're doing that?
So she got hot. As the energy began to move through her, when I energized here, she got hot. The solar plexus chakra regulates the heat in the body. So what I did is I just removed like some of the energy that is collected here in her solar plexus, removed that, and it brought her temperature back down to normal. So what she's experiencing now are all the different areas, basically, you're experiencing your chakras. So you felt like what I did up here, what I did there, you got lightheaded, you know. So let's work on your throat, work on the throat chakra. So she's got a little congestion in the chakra, so all I'm going to do, I'm not going to energize, because she doesn't need that. What she needs is just a cleansing. So I'm just going to clean her chakras for her. And that will allow them to pull in more life force, more energy into her body. Do a little bit of work on her heart. And the back heart, because the heart has a back to it, as does the solar plexus. How you doing? Okay. So you want to tell everybody what you felt, what you experienced?
Well, right now I feel like there's waves going through.
Yeah, there are.
I had lightheaded and hot when he was at the top of my head, and then when he went to my solar plexus, it kind of pulled me down. Now I feel like there's sound waves or vibrations kind of going. That's why my fingers keep moving in my hands.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So were you kind of massaging her aura, so to speak?
I clean the aura first. That's the first thing that you want to do, because you can't really go in. You got to remember, this is a very personal thing when you go into somebody's chakra. That's why you always have to ask for permission first. But this is how I used her basically to demonstrate to everybody here the reality of the chakra system that operates and exists in your bodies. So the next thing you want to look at are the number of chakras that you have. These are all the chakras that operate within the human body. You've got the forehead, the ajna, you've got the crown, the throat, the front heart, the back heart, the front solar plexus, the back solar plexus, the front spleen and the back spleen, the navel, the sex, the Ming Meng, and then you have down here where you can't see the root. Now, there's another chakra that over the last several years has been being formed because our solar system moves, like we have this tendency to believe that we're static in the universe. We're not static. Our solar system is on a trajectory and it moves throughout the galaxy. It's never in the same place, which means our planet is never in the same place. So as we've moved into different places of galactic space, it has activated, because we've been picking up all these different vibrational frequencies that are all about reshifting and rearranging consciousness on the planet Earth, this chakra here. This is going to be the 12th chakra that sits above the head. And this is going to be reflective of the time that we're moving into. Now, this is the key piece. Our ancestors understood that the way our body is put together, if you connect different parts of the body to other parts, it's like taking plugs and sticking them into wall sockets. You get a flow of energy, a flow of life force. And if you can handle this flow of life force, you can learn how to cultivate it, utilize it to move you into what would be called states of superconsciousness. This is what our ancestors walk with. This is how they vibe. If you go to the roof of your mouth and you go right down the center of it, you're going to feel a ridge. So just take the tongue and just follow that ridge down the roof of the mouth, all the way down here. Now, along this roof and the ridge are 3 points. The wind, which sits right behind the front teeth. The fire, which corresponds to the systems of the heart in the human body. And the water point, which corresponds to all the different water functions: bladder, kidney, sex, blood. All of this connects to the water point. This science is called Kachari Mudra. Kachari Mudra is tongue connection. And it's the ability to take the tip of your tongue and connect it to this ridge. Now, there are 3 expressions of Kachari Mudra. The first is just taking the tip of your tongue and putting it on the ridge on the roof of your mouth. The second is utilizing the 3 points to get more specific with it, to actually engage different systems. The third is the most elaborate that our ancestors used of Kachari Mudra, and today it's only found in the tantric systems of yoga. This is the most profound, and many would say the most extreme. It's literally taking the tongue through a series of processes that elongates the tongue. After the tongue is elongated to a certain length, the underside of the tongue is gradually cut. You are then able to take the tongue, flip it backwards, and move up through the base of the nasal cavity and into the back area of the brain where the pineal resides. And with the tip of the tongue, tickle the pineal gland and get it to release a chemical compound called dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, which activates higher consciousness. This is how they roll. The whole idea, of cutting the underside of your tongue, of course, for us would be extreme. I use the second process. Second process is learning how to take the tip of your tongue and connect it to one of these 3 points. When you do that, that's your first introduction to authentic self-integration. That's your first introduction to authentic self-integration. Now you hear it all the time. People talking about body, mind, spirit. Body, mind, spirit this. Body, mind, spirit that. What does that mean? What exactly does body, mind, spirit mean? Everything today in the new age of fluff, philosophy, and spiritual encounters is body, mind, spirit. But nobody can really, I don't know what that really means, but it sounds good. Body, mind, spirit is a pure, authentic integration of the intention applied in the mind upon the inner workings of the body, which helps to evolve, release, and free a transcendental level of awareness. It connects you to your spiritual self.
How does that pineal, whatever, how do you pronounce that? How does that relate to the third eye?
That's a good question. This is the thing. When I was coming up originally back in the early 70s, the pineal gland was the third eye. Then it shifted to the pituitary, or the ajna. So the crown chakra corresponds to the pineal. So back in the early 70s, late 60s, that was the third eye. But then of late, they shifted it to the ajna. And the ajna became the third eye. But now, what I've been told, or what I've discovered, that the third eye is really the forehead chakra, which we knew nothing about. Because the forehead chakra here deals with the actual third eye. So, with this level of connectedness, when your tongue is connected, this is what you look like. You're pulling energy from the cosmos. You're pulling energy from the earth. It keeps an energetic field of protection around your entire body to ward off any kind of energetic intrusions. And that can be from individuals that you don't like, people trying to waylay you with some incantations, whatever. The energy field gets dense and forms a protective barrier so that you cannot be put upon by other things or people. That's just with connecting the tongue. When your tongue is disconnected, this is what you look like, right here. And this is how we move through our lives, non-integrated, non-connected. When I started doing like internal practices, I asked my teacher, I said, wow, if I'm getting such a benefit through my practices, with just like my tongue connected, talk to me. He said, when I'm not eating, sleeping, or talking, my tongue is always connected. Because when your tongue is connected, you're pulling in serious transformational energy into your body. And it's repatterning you. It's shifting and making you something other than what you are right now. This is the authentic, holistic information that our ancestors have left for us. That's thousands of years old. That we don't use. We don't use it.
Does that mean we just have to have our tongue at the roof of our mouth?
Yeah. I mean, there's a series of practices that you can do to really blow that up. But just having the tip of your tongue connected to the roof of your mouth does this. You have a circuit that moves through the perineum and runs all the way up the body, around the top of the head, and back down again. Now, off this back circuit are 6 smaller circuits that feed into the body. Off the front circuit are 6 smaller circuits. The back circuit is a masculine channel. The front circuit is a feminine channel. They have their own texture of energy that they disperse through the human body. So, when you take the tip of your tongue and connect it, you connect this circuit. And then the energy runs in a constant, consistent fashion through your body. Because you've taken this circuit, which moves up here, goes around the top of the head, comes down through here, and moves along the roof of the mouth. And it ends at the water point. This circuit in the front comes here, comes up the front, moves up through here, and goes, and it ends at the tip of your tongue. When you take the tip of your tongue, as above, so below, by divine design, it's like all these plugs that we have right now to make all this stuff work, making all of this happen, because we got a plug sticking into this outlet, masculine, feminine. When you take the tip of your tongue and you stick it into one of those 3 points, or you put it on that pole that runs along the center of the ridge of your mouth, you connect that circuit. And you've got life force flowing through your whole body. When I first started learning about this, before I had really developed the volume of energy to move through me in that way, sometimes I'd have to travel and go do a lecture here or there. I'd be up all night packing. And I would be like, man, how am I going to do this? I gotta get there, and 2 hours after I get there, I gotta speak. I would just sit and put the tongue to the roof of my mouth and pull in all this energy. And I was ready to go. It's amazing. It's part of our design. You got to remember something. You are designed as a 4th dimensional entity. You live in a 3-dimensional construct. That's what this culture has done to us. It's taken away your etheric attributes and replaced them with a level of density that doesn't allow you to connect to who and what you really are. So we live a life in misery because we can't connect to who and what we are. We're stuck in survival mode consistently because we cannot connect to who and what we are. They have us at a disadvantage 24/7 because we cannot connect to who and what we are. And it's by design. The chakra system connects to all the different meridians in your body. You all know about acupuncture? There are different levels of healing. The highest level of healing is medical Qigong. The reason it's the highest level of healing is because all the different chakras that are at the base of our reality connect to all the different meridians, so they oversee every condition possible that can occur in the physical body. So if you know how to work the chakras and which chakras feed into which meridians, then you can shift and change any and every condition that the body can be exposed to. It's like the highest level of acupuncture without the needles, and it's much more efficient. It's much more effective. People come to me all the time that are like Reiki masters. I said, well, how long did it take you to become a Reiki master? Well, I got my certification in a weekend. I'm like, I don't know no masters like that. You know, I mean, I've been working with this for years. I'm still working. I'm just a student. You know, I've made some deep accomplishments, but I'm still just a student. I'll be a student in this till the day I die. A 3-day workshop ain't going to give me no mastership in this. You know, I do retreats twice a year in Jamaica. 7 days. I'm down there. I'm teaching sisters and brothers the practices. I always have at least, I'd say, between 4 to 7 Reiki masters. And I know somebody in the audience is a Reiki master. I'm not, you know, locking you down, but I'm just, you know, I'm just saying what it is. There's so much more. Even in Reiki, you're not getting all the information. You're not giving it to you. There's so much more that goes into that healing science that you're not getting. And it's really putting you at risk in a variety of different ways. I mean, I get Reiki masters coming to me all the time for healings. All the time. I'm like, but you're a master. You're a Reiki master. How come you can't, we weren't taught that. Chakra. This is the anatomy of a chakra. So you have the stem. And the stem is a cord that runs all the way through the center line of the body. You can see where this stem, the root, connects to this central cord. And that cord is in each and every one of you. So when you look at the anatomy of the chakra, this is where we get damaged here. This is a protective web. This web, its function is to keep out all kinds of environmental influences, external and internal. Which means that, say for example, the solar plexus. The solar plexus chakra is one of the most important chakras in your body with respect to you containing and maintaining your sanity. Because once this protective web becomes damaged, and it's damaged due to like extreme emotional distress, various levels of consistent anxiety, the web begins to tear. You get holes in it. Once those holes and tears get in the web, and some of them just look horrendous, but once the holes and tears get in the web, then you're susceptible from this point from entities moving in. And when I say entities, I'm talking about people.
Emotions.
Huh?
I said emotions.
No, I'm talking about entities.
Okay.
I'm talking about like real entities.
Really?
Yeah. When you see people that are like referred to as crazy or insane and they're talking, they're hearing voices
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that, that's because their chakra webs have been so damaged that they now are being occupied by a variety of different elementals or entities.
Like demons or something?
Well, you can call them demons, but they don't necessarily have to be bad.
Oh.
Except that they've taken the liberty to occupy your body,
And you can't control it?
and you cannot control it. So maintenance and preservation of the chakra web is paramount. Very, very important. So if you're under any kind of consistent emotional stress, anxiety, like most of us are, I'm just telling you, your chakra webs are in danger of being punctured, torn, or ripped. Any questions before I go? Yes.
Can they be repaired?
Sure, yeah. Anything and everything in our bodies can be repaired.
How? So how would, what she said?
How are the chakra webs?
By doing specific types of practices, which generates and moves like a healing energy up through the root of the chakra. And just like as above, so below, you know, like you take a plant that hasn't been watered, and the leaves like start to droop and the plant starts to die. When you put the water in it, then the plant absorbs the water, and it, you know, takes that throughout the system of the plant, and the leaves perk up. Same thing with the chakras. When you begin moving a certain kind of energy through the chakras, then the chakras like absorb that energy and they heal themselves. Everything in your body has consciousness. Everything. You know? So let's do another experiment. Let me have...
Just one question.
Uh-huh.
I'm reading Zora Neale Hurston's book, Tell My Horse, and it's a scary book. She even has a picture of a zombie in it. And she's the woman that wrote...
I know Zora Neale Hurston.
Okay. Anyway, I'm a half scared reading the book. So would that have anything to do with what you're talking about, with what happens to people as they're going into these different things that are happening to them?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It also happens when you see people just walking down the street, you know, who have been under such stress because they've been in survival mode so deep, you know, and been consumed so heavily by it that they just lose all perspective and awareness. I mean, you see them all the time.
Yeah.
You know? There's so many different things that we are completely and totally unawares of.
Yeah.
Because we live in this three-dimensional realm, but yet we're fourth-dimensional beings. And this is the problem with that. It means that on the fourth-dimensional frequency, there are entities. And those entities can influence or inhabit you. Because as a fourth-dimensional entity connected to your fourth-dimensional self, you're aware of all of this. So let me show you something.